Hello, we'll wait for some people to roll in. Welcome. We'll wait for a few more people to roll in and we'll get started here this morning. Good morning. Well, hello. Glad you're here this morning. My name is 𝙤𝙤𝙗𝙪, and I lead Minnesota Crossroads Career Network. And we have a great morning planned for you. We got some short video, and we have then our folks from the state of Minnesota that'll tell you about how to effectively apply for and pursue positions with the state. And I know it'll be helpful and worthwhile for you to be able to do that more successfully. Hopefully we'll have a few more people here joining us shortly, but I'm looking forward to this morning. I hope you have a cup of coffee. It's cold and blustery outside and a typical Minnesota winter day. And so it's a good chance to kind of sit back, wrap up in something warm and have something warm to drink and enjoy and get some good productive help this morning. Now, part of our hope with Crossroads is that along with helping people succeed in their job search, we also talk about bigger issues and point people to the hope and encouragement of Jesus Christ. It should be no surprise that the Bible has a great deal of wisdom for life. And one thing I see very often is that people try to go through life on their own, especially when they may be going through a difficult time like a job search. Life wasn't meant to be done without community. We're meant to support each other, to show love to each other and to encourage each other. You know, scripture in the Bible actually says, do not neglect to meet together as is the habit of some, but encourage one another. You know, in life, a church home can be a great resource of wisdom and support and hope and encouragement. In a job search, seeking help from others and building community with groups like this can be a great resource and moral support to find your next position. And in the Christmas season, it's a great time to participate in a church community and get encouraged there. Don't do it alone. Plugging into groups like Crossroads can help. And at the end of our main presentation today, I'll talk about all the ways you can engage with Crossroads in different ways and be in stuff that's more interactive as well. Let me open us in a word of prayer, and then we'll get started this morning. Lord, we just thank you for this chance to come together, even if it's virtually for now. But we pray that you use this time for your purposes, that everyone walk away with something that is going to be helpful and meaningful and useful for them and help them be more productive in their search. Lord, you know our specific needs better than we know them ourselves. And we pray that you provide everyone with what they really need today. We pray all this in Jesus' name. Amen. So with that, let me share a short video here. It's the Christmas season, and I think it's a great reminder of why we celebrate Christmas and what it's really all about. So let me put this up and make sure make sure I get the sound right, because often when I do this, I get it wrong and people can't hear. So here we go, share sound. And hopefully you can see this.
Question: what is the true meaning of Christmas? In this video, I'll answer that question from a biblical perspective. And afterwards, I'll share some helpful resources, so stick around to the end. The true meaning of Christmas is love. John 3:16 and 17 says, "For God so loved the world that he gave his one and only Son, that whoever believes in him shall not perish, but have eternal life. For God did not send his Son into the world to condemn the world, but to save the world through him." The true meaning of Christmas is the celebration of this incredible act of love. The real Christmas story is the story of God becoming a human being in the person of Jesus Christ. Why did God do such a thing? Because he loves us. Why was Christmas necessary? Because we needed a Savior. Why does God love us so much? Because he is love itself. Why do we celebrate Christmas each year? Out of the gratitude for what God has done for us. We remember his birth by giving each other gifts, worshiping him, and being especially conscious of the poor and less fortunate. The true meaning of Christmas is love. God loved his own and provided a way, the only way for us to spend eternity with him. He gave his only son to take our punishment for our sin. He paid the price in full, and we are free from condemnation when we accept that free gift of love. God demonstrated his own love for us in this. While we were still sinners, Christ died for us. Hungry for
Now you should be able to hear me. I'm sorry. I think I had my mute on. I've been talking here and you didn't hear any of that. I just was saying, I just wanted to share that video real quickly because I think a good reminder of what Christmas is really about. It's easy to get caught up in all the gift buying and everything else. And those are good things, but it's without Christ, there wouldn't be a Christmas here. Anyway, at this point, I'm glad to be able to introduce both Marnie Kerfman and Cindy Camarilla from the state of Minnesota. They work with MnDOT and are going to talk about pursuing state jobs, which I think is a great option for so many people. And I think sometimes it gets forgotten. And I know sometimes it can be a little challenging to navigate the systems and how to best pursue those things. And so they're going to kind of provide some clarity and help and give you some ideas of what's available and how to pursue them most effectively. I'm really glad to have them here this morning because I think it's a great topic, but I know that they're going to be real helpful for you. So I'm going to turn it over to them. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and I will give you the next hour. And I'm off.
Thank you, Harry. All right. Well, it looks like I am screen sharing and I've got Cindy here with me again. We'll do some short introductions. My name is Marnie Kerfman and I am working for MnDOT, the Department of Transportation at Minnesota, doing workforce outreach coordination. Together, we are promoting MnDOT. We are doing some outreach that wouldn't normally be able to be done by our small team of recruiters. And so we'd like to do more community events like this. We also are tasked to go into schools and do some STEM outreach, as well as outreach to high schoolers, and just make sure that they know that the state of Minnesota and MnDOT specifically are places to come and work. My background is from the Department of Employment and Economic Development. My last 11 and a half years were spent there in job service at St. Cloud. And I helped a lot of job seekers with resume reviews, targeting resumes, putting together resumes for career shifts, mock interviews, interview preparation, and then of course helping employers as well, and making sure they got exposure through job fairs and connected with job seekers. Before that, I worked at the city of Sauk Rapids and was a city planner there. I did some work at TRICAP, a community action program before Sauk Rapids, and a couple of internships. And I will put in our LinkedIn information as Cindy introduces herself, and you're welcome to learn more about us there. And of course, connect with us. We welcome that.
Well, thank you, Marnie. I have been in recruitment for well over 20 years. I think Harry and I tried to figure out how far back we go and gave up. We've both been in recruitment for a while. I recently came to the state about 3 years ago from recruiting with Ameriprise, Fairview, some other corporate employers that you will recognize. And having made that leap, really feel that there's a lot of unknowns when you apply to the state that we could definitely share with others. It's kind of, as Marnie has alluded to, it's one of those things that you kind of have to peek behind the curtain to see where and how and what the state is looking for. I have been in sourcing and recruiting, so my job was to search out and find people who are looking for jobs, and then to recruit them to apply, and then walk with them through the interview and hiring process, as well as onboarding. So Marnie and I feel that our backgrounds complement each other because, we are very much engaged with outreach to the public, and we were hired to find people who were looking for jobs and then help them apply. And so we welcome, the opportunity to tell you more today. And again, I encourage you to reach out to Marnie and I through LinkedIn and connect. We share a lot of jobs that are offered and a lot of other information about MnDOT. The state of Minnesota is the second largest employer. And within that, the state has 100 agents, more than 100 agencies, of which MnDOT is one. So think of different businesses under the general umbrella. And that's part of the mystery about applying to the state, is knowing which agency has the type of jobs you're looking for. And that's what we hope to share that information today.
Absolutely. So our agenda here, I wrote a cutesy little piece to tie in with our picture of the bridge there under construction, kind of a title of, "Are you the missing piece?" Are you one of the, I think maybe yesterday it was 55 people, at least, 55 openings that we had just at MnDOT. So are you the missing piece that is needed in your local or your statewide agency that's serving other Minnesotans? So our agenda, we're kind of here to tell you about why we work for the state and share what we know about the application process as past applicants ourselves and as employees with a peek behind the curtain, so to speak.
We will provide the URL, of course, how to apply, where to find it, and then how to drill down to jobs within MnDOT or jobs that are within your skill set and experience.
Great. And we will explain how long application periods take, how long they are, and why. So we hope that's helpful and puts your mind at ease.
And, really not only just apply, but how you can really adequately show that you meet the posting's minimum qualifications on your resume, and how important it is to be specific with that resume. You can fill out the application or apply with just a resume after completing your personal profile.
Yes. With Cindy's background, she does have a unique peek behind the curtain on this. So listen up, she's got some tips and tricks for you. All right, so why public service? So Jamal Stafford is a Maryland federal employment lawyer with experience counseling and representing both employees and employers. And in his April 2022 article on careersingovernments.com titled "The Reasons for Choosing a Government Job Over a Private Sector Job." Jamal writes, "Working in the government allows you to make a difference. The government works for the people, and by supporting the government's position or mission, you can have a positive effect on your own life and the lives of those living around you. Even if you aren't leading an agency and making policy decisions or working alongside lawmakers to draft the legislation, you can still feel proud knowing that you are playing a part in something much bigger than yourself or any one company." And of course, when we send out the information for our presentation here, we have that article as well, and I can put it in the chat. For me, I work for the state of Minnesota because of the stability. I crave stability. I need it. For reasons of my background, growing up, that's something that I really need in my life. I sleep better at night knowing that I have that stability. Now, if you know my story, you know that I have had some times where things have been shaken, but ultimately it's one of the more stable and secure industries that you can be in. And so for me, number one thing is stability and security. Also the benefits, obviously as we age, we need more and more preventative care, and we have things come up. And so benefits that don't strap you at the end of the month are very nice. And of course, I think the pay, however, controversial right now, in a time where pay is finally being demanded by the workers to change. I think consistently, especially with unions, that government pay has been very fair throughout, our lifetime. So for me, that's part of why I choose this work. The other way is that I get to do outreach. When I first discovered community outreach, it was in a very tiny little paragraph in a huge book. I was up at the University of North Dakota, and I didn't know what I wanted to do. And it did take me a while to get to this type of position, but I am so happy to be able to do the work that I really was made for. So I'll hand it over to Cindy about why she works for the state.
As I mentioned, I came to the state 3 years ago after working in corporate recruiting for over 20 years. And I just never thought of the state as an employer. I know that we offer other services, but I guess I never thought it could be a job. And so I had a friend reach out and say, hey, we're looking to do this with the state. Consider coming on board. Well, I applied 3 separate times for the same position because other people internally got a shot at it first. And after going through the process, I understand why we do promote from within, which I think is unique in today's market. The other thing that impressed me about the state was they look for your experience, and age was not a factor. It was how much experience do you have and how is that applicable to the position you're applying for? And it was something that was an eye-opener for me, that I was valued and my experience was valued. And in coming to the state, through the interview process, I interviewed with our deputy commissioner for a different agency. And she said, we found that people that come to work for the state have a servant heart. So it's Minnesotans working for Minnesotans. So I realize that I am working to make my neighbor's life better, or to provide services, or to continue to provide services that my neighbors count on and rely on. To back up Marnie's comment on pay and benefits, I think there's a benefit that is often overlooked, and that is the pension or defined retirement plan that the state offers. And you will find that very few other employers offer that anymore. So I can save through a 401k that's matched. I get a pension plan, and they also have a deferred comp plan. So I can save and defer the taxes on that, and the state invests that for me. So I think that's very relevant in today's time, when saving for retirement can be difficult. I know a lot of people have decided not to, because they need that money in their daily budget, but the state provides multiple ways. And there's actually a healthcare investment option as well. I have a coworker who said that when she retires, and she's been here over 20 years, but when she retires, she will have enough sick time and her medical comp to pay for her benefits for 5 years, a total of 5 years. So I think the state offers options. They take care of the people that work for them, and the people that work for them take care of the people in Minnesota.
Absolutely.
In 2021, there were roughly 4,700 job postings, and it covered a variety of occupations. Now that was total. Any day right now, you'll go out there and you'll see over 500 job postings. Before the pandemic, it averaged about 300, between 200 and 300. But we have, 3 job families that really account for over half of that. So it was roughly 54%. 27% were in health and human services. 16% was construction, maintenance, manufacturing, and transportation. And 11% really was administrative support and hospitality. And those are positions that cover all agencies. So all agencies could have those positions. IT positions had the most. They had 255 for 2021. Nursing positions followed closely with 212. Those nursing positions could be anywhere from outreach clinics to our Department of Corrections, who actually need registered nurses. Office and administrative jobs followed after that with 205 postings. Office and administrative, the classification, and we'll go into that, covers a multitude of positions. And then there's the human service technicians, which had 204. The human service technicians are what you would commonly know as CNAs, certified healthcare attendants. Student workers and internships or interns had 110 postings. And that reflects our focus on attracting a new generation of workers to the state and state employment and what the state has to offer.
So our state agencies, boards, commissions, colleges, universities, there's so many different agencies. I think one of the things that I think of when Cindy mentions the nurses and the human service techs is the state's, is it MDVA? Sometimes I don't get my acronyms right, but I always think when I'm in St. Cloud, I think of the VA, it's a federal employer, which is like a whole new animal, right? But we have the Minnesota Department of Veteran Affairs, and we have several facilities run through the state. And so there's lots of opportunities there as well. I just saw one recently in the city of Preston. I had to look up and see where that was in the state of Minnesota. They're opening a new smaller care facility there for veterans and need some staff. So Definitely, when you're looking through that large list, have that other Google window open so you can look up, hey, do I want to move to the little city of Preston maybe for this unique opportunity? So here's a little bit more about the state agency trivia for you all today. The state is the largest employer in Minnesota, like Cindy said. There are over 50,000 employees running and making sure you have services at over 100 state agency boards, commissions, colleges, and universities. And each of these really do act like small individual businesses. This slide lists just some of the Minnesota state agencies, but at mn.gov/careers, you will be able to sift through all the openings, and you can filter by different agencies or locations. And you'll find that the state offers a wide range of opportunities and careers, including entry level, mid-level, and then executive level jobs.
Great. I know this is a lot of information. And if you write down a question, you can reach out to Marnie and I later, because now we're getting into kind of the meat of applying, and it can be a little overwhelming, but each job posting will include a job classification specification title, and then a working title. The job spec title acts as the general description of the kind of work performed by the employees in that classification. For example, you'll get office and administrative as the job class, and then the working title could be bookstore attendant, because the job class is the level of experience. Each class title in the executive branch is assigned to one of 11 broad career paths. So generally speaking, these paths are then divided into 37 career families or clusters of related areas of work. For example, we're thinking along the lines of accounting, auditing, and financial jobs, which are within the same career family. And separately, open positions within Minnesota's judicial branch can be found at mincourts.gov.careers. Also, the Met Council, the U of M, and the Minnesota Airports Commission have their own career sites. So in order to search those jobs, you'll have to go onto their site specifically.
So Cindy, can I just go ahead and put in a general application to the state of Minnesota, and they'll review my qualifications and figure it out for me and see where I'll fit in best?
Oh, that isn't how it works. Again, as we mentioned, there are over 100 agencies within the state, and they do act as their own businesses. So for each job that you see that is available, apply for each one, because there is no way with our current system and how we track applications, there's no way to share that. So if I have somebody who's looking for an office and administrative position with MnDOT, there's no way to share it with or know what's offered to someone in a different agency. So you really need but again, once you fill out your profile and you attach a resume, it makes it much easier to apply for other positions within the system.
Absolutely. I knew that I would get a genuine smile and laugh out of Cindy if I brought up this subject, because this is something she's passionate about, to make sure that everyone understands. You really can't apply for that one CNA position and just hope that it works for every opening in the state. You have to apply to those different small businesses, like we said, within the agencies. So where do you apply? It's that mn.gov/careers that we put in the chat. And to begin, you'll go there, you'll visit that site, and you'll select search open positions. I think right now on My screen this morning, it's showed up as a green, but I bet it's going to be either blue or green on your screen, wherever you decide, whichever size of screen you decide, because those are the color palettes of the state of Minnesota. So that big button, search open positions, or if you use assistive technology, such as a screen reader, you can select the accessible applicant portal and then select new user. And then you'll create a user ID and a password. And of course, as always, with any job application, please read and carefully follow the instruction you're given, and then record what you've created for future reference. After many years of working in a resource room or a career lab at Career Force or the workforce centers, I know that this can be just the bane of the existence of a job seeker. So do yourself a favor and keep good records. Then once you've entered your current contact information, you want to review the terms and then select I agree, and then finally select register. Thereafter, to quickly review any current MnDOT Metro District openings, after selecting that search open positions when you come into the website, then on the next screen, you can select view all jobs. And on the following screen, you'll be able to choose the location, Twin Cities area, for example, under the location menu, and under the agency menu, maybe you choose transportation department. And we encourage you to select Save Search at this point, because then you can set up an email job alert by filling out the information requested in a pop-up box and then checking the email me when new jobs meet my criteria option and selecting Save. Now, if you have any trouble doing this, please reach out. We'd be happy to help you. We can have a little meet and greet and share the screen and try and help you set that up if you have any trouble. When you do find an opening and you'd like to apply for it, you'll select that job title to view the full posting. And I say my advice here is to make sure you save that text, put it in your Google Drive or your OneDrive, and then you'll have it there for studying the posting so that you can target your resume to it and for later when you hopefully get that interview request.
And this is the part that is going to be kind of detailed. And again, if you have any questions, reach out to us. But the meat of the job posting will list minimum qualifications. Minimum qualifications are what the person who screens your resume will be looking for and will make sure you meet those. So if a job lists a specific software that you need 3 years of experience in, you would want to call that out and list it. And they will, when they review your application, and they will review the resume as well, you can't infer that you have something just by your job title. If you say you're a nurse, for example, certain programs are needed, or certain years of experience in a specific healthcare are needed. And just because you have the title of RN, they won't assume that. So spell out your accomplishments, detailing how you demonstrated the required skills, knowledge, and abilities in previous experience. Show you meet the minimum qualifications. State the obvious. You're going to list the months and years of your employment for each position that you've held. And I would actually recommend that if you have the exact day, to include that, because they will make sure that your resume has the number of years experience that are listed under the qualifications. And we've recently made some great strides in eliminating or making the equivalent years of experience versus a degree. 2-year or 4-year degree, they're asked, that could be, you could substitute 1 or 2 years of experience depending upon the job and the minimum qualifications. And again, address each qualification, how often you used it, or the abilities that are included in that experience. So if you have hand tools, explain, name, call out the name of the tool, how it was used, and how often. Did you use it once every month, or did you use it every day for 8 hours? And we do have, another portion or another website that you can go to that has resume tips as well. And apply for each position you qualify for separately. In the interest of data privacy, there's no opportunity for us to share applications. I can't, as a recruiter, submit your resume for a different position. Only you can do that, because we do ask you to attest to that information. And as well as you may not want to apply for a different position. So apply for each one that you qualify for. We do have ways to ask questions. Again, at the bottom of each posting will be contact information. You'll want to save that information. You can also ask some general questions of our Minnesota Management and Budget Human Resources Office. They are the general HR service that is offered to each agency that goes above and beyond what each agency can provide. But again, I can't state enough to spell it out specifically. There are many people who are HR related, but they have many duties. And so they may have to review 100 resumes for one job. And you want to make it as easy and as clear for them that you qualify.
So make sure that you apply for all the jobs you're interested in individually, separately, one at a time. It will get easier after your first application. Your application to one posting cannot suffice for all agencies, and we really can't say this enough. So for example, let's say that you apply to a human service technician position, like a CNA with DHS today, Department of Human Services. And next week you find another posting of direct support specialist position for the MDVA, the Minnesota Department of Veteran Affairs. So you must apply again to that second posting. Now, if you compare the text that you've saved, of course, because you are keeping great records, you might find that the postings are very similar. Maybe they've got same or similar minimum qualifications. Then absolutely use some of those same accomplishment statements, but you're going to put in a new application for that second item that you want to apply to. Each state agency system is siloed. So again, there's no opportunity for state agencies to share applicants or applications.
Again, show how you meet the minimum qualifications and state the obvious. For example, again, projects that you led or new software that you've learned, make sure it's inferred. I reached out to someone for a position and I gave them a call and said, I think you have this experience, but you haven't listed it. And they said, oh yeah, wouldn't you know that from the job title? And I said, no, actually, I don't. I'm not in IT, so I wouldn't know that if you have C++, you'd have C++, you'd have C++. So again, state the obvious and don't worry about how many pages your resume is. We are looking for experience. I actually reviewed a resume that was 25 pages long. So I did review every line to make sure they met the minimum qualifications. And again, how much frequency you use the skills that are listed in the minimum qualifications. Explain how you used it and how often and in what context. Did you lead a project and use C++? That is an accomplishment that we would like to see. And quantify, when the project was for 5 months and it was completed in 4, how many records you had to access in the new software? How long did it take? Did you supervise anybody? Were you a lead in any of the teams? And what size were the teams? Numbers, rule, and as you can quantify, it just helps with the review process. Address each minimum qualification and any preferred qualifications that you meet.
So we've got some additional resume tips regarding your work experience. Again, make sure you list the months and years, dates, exact dates, if you've got them, would be even better, of each employment tour of duty or position for each employer. And then describe your work responsibilities in detail using very explicit nouns and verbs rather than just vague umbrella terms. So for example, you might say, managed over 1,000 accounts receivable and payable while working directly with the Chief Information Officer, rather than maintained records for AR and AP. Use some measurable outcomes, values, percentages when possible. So rather than involved in an employee satisfaction program, you might say implemented an employee satisfaction program, which resulted in a 30% reduction in turnover. List any systems, softwares, tools, or equipment that you've used. I'll go out on an anecdote here. I had a brother-in-law who has done construction all of his life, and we was going to apply to a tree trimming service. And he took a picture of all of his chainsaws out in the shed. Between him and his dad, they had quite a collection. We listed all the chainsaws, all the different brands and the different motors and sizes that he had used. And he got a compliment from the person he interviewed with, the owner of the company, saying, "I've never seen such a detailed resume before." But it was really helpful to him because he knew that on day one, he could go in and begin using that chainsaw with enough know-how of somebody who's used plenty of them before. So be sure to always keep your information up to date and accurate. As you get a new chainsaw or use a buddy's, maybe you add that to your list. Other resume tips include listing any languages other than English that you're fluent in. If you have some just kind of business or a little bit that you can get by in, maybe you list that. And list any relevant memberships that you have in any professional or honor societies, any public speaking events that you've presented information in. You can include relevant volunteer work or organizational memberships. And for positions that are requiring specific responses in addition to your resume information, list the title of the job for which you are applying, and then list the responses to each component. So I've mentioned relevancy a few times here. I want to make sure that everyone understands that it's important to add value to your resume based on what you know from the posting. In my resume classes, I always thought about let's say you're applying for a position at a library or a bookstore. Then if you are an avid reader in many book clubs, or you really like a specific genre, that's great. Maybe share that. But if you're applying for a CNA position, AR or AP position, other things that aren't quite related, then the relevancy of your reading habits just isn't there. So make sure that whatever you're adding adds value relevant to the posting. Okay.
And I would like to add, you may have updated your resume, but if you have an application in there in the system, you filled out the application maybe a couple years ago, it's just going to create confusion. So when you update your resume, I would suggest you update your employment history on your profile, just because you want to make it as clear as possible. The other piece is you may have done everything right, and then you're going to get something that says you don't meet minimum qualifications. I would suggest you, again, as Marty mentioned, keep the information at the bottom. Just because you want to know what you've applied for. If you applied for the same class or the same job, and it could be with someone, a different agency, you want to make sure, and I've done this myself, know who's calling you and why they're calling you, what position it is.
Absolutely. Yes. Keep good records. Can't reiterate that enough. So regarding applying for jobs, read the application information carefully, the terms, the agreements, and make sure you've checked, I have read and agree. If you haven't done that, then you won't be able to move forward when you hit the next button. And you can always select attach resume to upload a new resume. However, like Cindy said, you don't have to do that. You can fill out the work experience and complete the application and put all your accomplishment statements in that, or you can attach that resume with all the information. At that point, you can also attach a cover letter if you'd like. There is some information on the MMB site, the Minnesota Management and Budget, about which file formats download the best. If you're not uploading a resume, you want to complete the entire application and be as complete as possible, following all the steps to complete that process. And then, of course, at the end, it gives you a chance to carefully review all of the application information on the review and submit page. So at this point, you're able to go back into a specific section and correct a typo or paste in something you forgot. To change any information, you would just select modify in the area that you want to edit. And then after you're done with that modification, you'll select save at the top of the page. And then finally, you'll submit the application when it's complete, and you will get an email. Make sure you look, if it's not in your inbox, check your trash, your junk, your spam folders, and make sure you save them and maybe put the address in a safe address book so that next time you don't have to hunt around for the email. In the My Job Applications page, it will display information about your job search activities, including the status of your application, as well as all the resumes and cover letters that you've uploaded to the site. So if you save an application without submitting it, the job will appear in the job application list with a status of not submitted.
There are other tips that we'd kind of like to let you know of, simply because It just increases your opportunity and your chances to move on to the next round. But the minimum qualifications are not flexible. The reason why they have minimum qualifications is it's determined that is what is minimally needed, but must be met in order to be considered and do the job. So it must clearly state in the easiest possible language how you meet exactly the minimum qualifications. And you can't, a number of people put at the top of their resume accomplishments or qualifications, and they list them out, X number of years doing certain number of skills. They're still going to go into your resume and make sure that that experience adds up to what's needed. So if you also have some of the preferred qualifications, they should be stated as clearly as possible as well. Never, I can't emphasize this enough, but don't use experience-based or skills-based or a functional resume. It's just not going to be able to be, you can't qualify how you meet the minimum qualifications. So your resume should be laid out chronologically so that human resources can really make sure that you meet those minimum qualifications. That's also how the pay ranges are determined. This number of skills for this position, and it fits within this salary range. The other thing is, at the bottom of each posting is a contact information. The contact information is the person that is responsible currently for making sure that the resumes are reviewed and moved on to the next stages. I would suggest that you keep that contact information as well. If at you get notification that you do not meet the minimum qualifications, you do have the opportunity to challenge and say, wait, yes, I do. And you reach out to that person and say, I don't understand why I was given this email. I do meet the qualifications. So that's something that I think, we as people who have applied to positions before are not used to doing. And to be honest with you, when I did the recruiting piece for DHS, I was surprised that more people didn't challenge the decision, simply because you can, if you skip something, if you miss how you meet a minimum qualification and you get that email, you can say, oh, yes, I do. And you have the opportunities to submit a new resume with that experience called out. So please don't ever think you don't have the ability to question or second guess. It doesn't guarantee that you'll move on to the next round, but you've at least been able to prove that you have that experience. Once the position disappears from our website, it doesn't mean it's been filled. It just means that once the posting expires, it's moved on to the next round, which is they're looking at the candidate pool and they're screening all the resumes. So our jobs will list an open date and a expiration, basically an expiration date, or the date it closes. That means it will close at 11:59 p.m. on that date. The jobs are updated at midnight for the next day. So if you see that it closes on December 22nd, it will close December 22nd at 11:59 p.m. So you have opportunity in the evening to apply before it closes. Once it closes, the recruiter or the person in charge of screening those resumes will go through that. They'll go through the resumes. They will also go through the process to see if there's anyone on the layoff list who has seniority or rights to that position. The other piece is they look to see if there are internal bidders, and that's somebody who is in the same class who may have opportunity to bid on or say, I have rights to that job because I have seniority and I'm an internal candidate. Once they go, and bidders will get an interview, and once but it's not a guarantee that they get the job. So once that process has been completed, Then a candidate pool is qualified, meaning we have the right number of skilled people. We look at if there are veterans. We don't award points to veterans, but we do make sure they are included in the candidate pool should they meet the qualifications. And that's forwarded on to the hiring manager. And that is when the candidate pool is determined, and that's the next steps as far as entering the interviewing and hiring process.
So we have one question. Do most of the jobs require or prefer a college degree?
I would say that is changing. I wouldn't say a college degree is preferred, except perhaps if you're applying for an attorney position. But basically, most of our job posting, you will see X number of years experience, a degree, and they'll say 2-year or 4-year. A degree will give you 1 or 2 years, sometimes 3 years experience in the qualification. So in other words, if you have a degree, that would give you years of experience. But that's not, again, certain positions, yes, but not all. In fact, we are moving more and more toward, realizing that experience is meeting qualifications.
So let's look at some positions that are out there right now and see if we can show some of these examples. So here is that mn.gov/careers. You'll notice that it automatically pops in the MMB. You don't have to type in that part. You don't have to remember that part. Then you click that search open positions. And for our demonstration purposes, I'm going to click on view all jobs. And why don't you just let me know in the chat if you can see this? Okay, we've got a couple yeses, so thank you. All right, before I move on, I'm going to take this next question. It says, does the website list all of the open jobs in all of the departments? Yes, so this one will include all these agencies here. As we said at the beginning, the Minnesota courts, of course, Met Council, and a couple others that you mentioned, Cindy, are on different sites. But yeah, the majority of the hundreds of commissions, colleges, universities, everything is out on here, all those agencies.
I would like to add, those are positions that are available for the public to apply for. There are a number of positions that they prefer internal candidates, and that's only posted internally to employees. So what you see is what is available for external applications.
Excellent point. Okay, so for our purposes today, I'm going to click the filter under location, and we're going to go into Twin Cities area. There we go. And for us, just to narrow it down, because we've got 289 jobs, I'm going to go and look at the 29 jobs in the Twin Cities area in the transportation department. So you'll notice that we've got several student worker and graduate engineer positions. I think I'm going to click on this one because it does show something. I was thinking maybe this one was open to at 2 different levels, but I was wrong. But we will use this one anyway as an example of just showing you a few things. So first, up at the top, it's going to give you some information about, full-time or part-time, regular or temporary, the job ID and the location. This is the location you would be based out of if you're in a position like a highway maintenance worker, or maybe you're looking at remote or telework, as we call it at the state, you still would be based out of a certain position or certain location. So that's what this is referring to. Then, of course, it's going to give you that working title and then the job class, as Cindy explained a little bit more about earlier in our presentation. Then it will give you who may apply. So this one is only open to employees in the same agency. And it was posted today, so at midnight, and then it closes on the 21st. Gives you some more pertinent information. They do have the telework called out here, and then usually later on it will talk about going through an agreement, a telework agreement process with the supervisor once the person is hired. Let's look at some others. This one, an auditor senior, it's nice. It's the same job class as the working title. It calls out specific amount of travel. It talks about which office. In the Department of Transportation, we've got 8 districts and the central office, so they'll specifically tell you. And then this one has some more specifics as far as what that 10% of the time traveling would include specifically. Let's go here to the minimum qualifications. Professional auditing experience. So it does say right here that a bachelor's degree in these areas would substitute for 1 year of professional experience. So they're asking for 3 years, and these 3 bullets are what the minimum qualifications are. But if you do have a degree, that would be used in the math to add up to that 3 years. Does that make sense? Any questions in the chat box there about how that works? I think I'm going to pop back out here, and I'm going to open this a little bit wider. One of the things that Cindy and I have been doing a lot of talk about lately is the transportation series. Here we have one who's specific to CAD designer. Let me see if I can find others. Yeah, this is the one I wanted to look at. This is out in Mankato area, in the Wells area. And this one is closing today. Here they talk specifically about the job and what it entails. And then under the minimum qualifications, this one gets to be a little bit more technical. So in addition to experience, we're talking about a CDL Class A, specifically with a tanker endorsement, but no air brake restriction. And then it talks about an exam, also testing. So there are background checks on many of these jobs. So you really want to read throughout here and see what everything entails as far as the application process. And then, like we said, at the bottom of each one, or somewhere here kind of in the middle of this one, the how to apply and application details, you've got a specific person, their name, their email address, and their phone number to contact about the position itself. All right, we have another question. As previous applicants of the state, how did we both receive our position? Did we apply online, network, and receive a referral? Or how did we get our positions?
Well, you do have to apply for each position. There has to be an active application. A lot of that is because the information that you complete on the application is downloaded into our employee record system. So that helps with the onboarding and bringing you into the system as having an employee record. I did receive someone that within my network reached out to me to tell me about the position. And then once I applied, they actually gave me a reference, not necessarily a referral to the job, but they did give me a reference as well.
Yeah, when I started, so I was first with the Department of Employment and Economic Development. I was coming off of a position elimination from the city of Sac Rapids. And I'll tell you, I spent most days at the library or the workforce center career force. And so I had taken all the classes that they offered, done one-on-ones with the employment counselor. And she actually gave me a heads up that there would be a position opening. And I remember it was a short window of time for this application process for the workforce development representative at the time. And it was also a temporary position. So of course that made my little stable and security, type heart, it made me nervous, but at the same time, I was able to talk with many people who worked in and around the center at that time, saying a temporary position is often a pipeline to a permanent position. And that's how it worked for me. So I applied. I didn't have anybody from the Workforce Center Career Force on my reference list. I do remember them saying that they contacted someone, who they knew. St. Cloud is kind of like a big, small town. And I think it was like a relative who also worked at the city. And so, it wasn't even truly based on just who I had listed in my references. But yeah, it was probably part of that heads up that the position was coming, just like Cindy was given, and an encouragement to apply. And then, of course, just based on our backgrounds, the very organized nature of our resumes, making sure that we made sure we met the minimum qualifications and addressed each of them very specifically and explicitly. All right, so we've got another one. You've mentioned the stability is important, and I was wondering how the state budget and years when there are budget cuts affect Minnesota state employment jobs, as it seems stability is directly correlated to the state budget. That's a great question. Each of these little small businesses that we talk about, each agency, the allocations and the budget are different for each one. I don't have a great answer on the big picture mechanics of that, but I can say that allocations are usually called out the year before, and that the budget year is sometimes different than the calendar year. A couple anecdotes here. I will say one of my first internship experiences was with the Minnesota Neighborhood Revitalization Program. And on my very first day, I went in, it was a 9 o'clock start, and all the doors were locked. And finally, when I got in, there was a big meeting going on once everybody got things gathered and somebody was singing happy trails, and unbeknownst to me, there was something that had happened at the council the night before. This was on a city level, but they were very nervous about the program being cut. And then, 8-9 months later, I kind of graduated with my internship intact, and things were fine. But those things happen. I lost my job at the city of Sauk Rapids because local government aid was cut. After the Great Recession, I had survived a couple rounds of layoffs and kind of knew it was coming and had saved and planned in my life to watch out for the inevitable. And then lastly, after I started with the state of Minnesota, there was a state shutdown. And so I was still getting calls for things that I had applied to previously. And so when the state shut down in 2011, I think in July, I got to go to a city interview on a day that, I just happened to have off because we couldn't come into work. But then, 11 and a half years later, I was still working in that same job service division. And so there aren't, it's not without bumps in the road.
I can address kind of what happened in 2020 when I started. The state kind of went through a hiring freeze. And what we did was I was redeployed or reassigned to helping other employees be redeployed to where the need was. So we had somebody in one agency who looked like they could transfer over to another agency and help them fill a need. So throughout most of 2020, the state actually redeployed employees to other positions. So met the need while we were having a hiring freeze and going through some of the budget issues. We were able to redeploy and reuse employees. They didn't get laid off. Some of the people actually were able to work through until they retired. And so we just kind of reallocated our talent, moved them around, and I kept it. That was my job. And so I made sure the new job was within their salary range, within the location, and within their skill set. So we make sure we keep our talent. Now, will that happen all the time? I don't know. I just know on this particular time, it really worked out well, and I was a part of it.
Right. With Indeed, we also had people who kind of redeployed or reworked so that they could help out in other areas where it was needed throughout the state. So that was a great example of how the agencies can work together. Yeah. I would say if that's something that you're truly concerned about with the agency that you apply to, maybe once you get into the interview, that's one of your follow-up questions. Just how is the budget done? And, is this a new position or has it been here a while? And how is it funded? If that's something that you're truly very concerned about. But I would say in comparison, a public service job is going to be offering you much more stability and security than when you're in the private sector. And that's just from watching 11 and a half years of job seekers who came from all sectors. All right. Anything that you wanted to point out or anything that I should demo specifically, Cindy?
We got a question about the Connect 700. The Connect 700 program is a unique program to the state wherein you get a certification saying you can do the job, but you would need accommodations. And what the Connect 700 does, it's a great program because you get 700 hours to work in the position, prove that you can do the position. You will get paid during that 700 hours. And then you would get hired on. So, you know, you have to make sure you meet the minimum qualifications. Then you go through the process. So you get the certification, and then that information with your resume is forwarded to the hiring manager. And so that Connect 700 candidate actually gets put to the top of the list for applicants. So they get looked at first, they get an interview, and then you get other resources that are available to you. But if you meet if you get the Connect 700 certificate, you can actually apply that to other positions as well. But we have a spot, and I think Marnie put it in the chat, where you complete that that information. It's a questionnaire, and in certain cases, you could get an interview up front to get that certificate. But we have an office that deals with that, and then once you get that all is, you forward that back to the recruiter, and the recruiter sends that to the hiring manager. Great question, but it's 700 hours, so it could be 20 hours a week up until 700, or it could be 40 hours a week up until you reach the number of 700. But you get that 700 hours in order to prove, basically in order to be able to show that you do the job. You can, with whatever accommodations, meet the qualifications.
Thank you, Cindy. Well, time has really flown. It's 8:46. Oh my goodness. We thank you guys for the questions and for your attention and interaction and participation today. We really hope that you reach out to us and connect with us. And thank you, Harry, for having us today. We really appreciate this opportunity.
I'm really grateful to the two of you. It's great information. And, you know, one of the things that stuck out to me, I think I knew this, but forgot that the state actually offers a pension. So few organizations do anymore these days. And that's huge. That's, you know, it's interesting. My dad is 93 years old and obviously been retired for many, many years now, but the pension he had from his company, which he worked for 38 years before he retired, you know, was a tremendous lifesaver for them. And all these years made such a big difference. And that's just so rare that people have that available to them. So one big reason to consider state jobs, but I think there's many, and you pointed them out. Thanks again. Appreciate you guys. And we'll be able to, hopefully that information will be useful to a lot of people. Somebody's asking for the contact information. It is currently still on the website. You can get that. And on our website at crossroadscareer.org, mncrossroads.com. But more importantly, this video of this webinar will be posted on our YouTube channel before the end of the day, and you'll be able to see all the information there again as well. Let me run through a few other things here for you in terms of other ways you can get plugged into Crossroads and take advantage of all the resources and opportunities we have available to you. Let me share a screen here with some slides, and we'll run through this and let you go here this morning. If this is your first time joining us on one of our webinars, you will get one of these books in the mail in the next several days here. It's a free gift from us. We hope it'll be worthwhile for you. It's a tremendous devotional on specifically written for people in job transition. And it has an index on the back with all kinds of different topics that of things that you may be going through or feeling or struggling with. And it has some great insight and spiritual and moral support for you in that situation. So really encourage you to spend some time with it. We're glad you're here, and we're glad to provide this as a free gift for you. So as I say, this will be coming in the mail in the next several days, most likely in time for Christmas. I'm trying to think here. Today's the 15th. We got another 10 days or so. So you should certainly get it before then. So Merry Christmas from Crossroads. You probably had to go through our website in order to register for this today. And I really encourage you to go back at mncrossroads.com and peruse the website in more depth. There is just so much great information on there about events, different resources and help you can get for your job search, and detailed information with dates and everything. But we also have a job board. And there's a number of companies that know what we do and the quality of people that participate in Crossroads and want to plug into that. And so they post positions on there. Many of them, not all, unfortunately, but many of them post their contact information too. So you actually have a live person you can reach out to and ask questions and follow up rather than just apply to a blind database online. So check it out, and you go back to the job board often. We do actually have a lot of people that got jobs through those postings. Companies want to help. So check it out and pay attention to that. On a weekly basis, there's a number of ways you can plug in, and encourage you to do so. It's just, I think the more you can interact with others, the more you can get good information, get one-on-one help, get insight is going to be invaluable for you in the process of your job search. So on a weekly basis at 9 o'clock every Thursday morning, it'll be following this meeting here. We have Networking with Grace. It's our networking group that meets every Thursday morning online. You do need to register in advance. You can do that through the website, but it's a great place to share contacts, get ideas for companies, get contacts at companies you're targeting, get some insight and input from others, and to be able to share that input as well. It's led by Wes Tang and Wes Roper. We like to call them Wes 1 and Wes 2. And they do a great job of making sure everybody walks out with something each day. But one thing I know Wes Roper or Wes Tang really emphasizes, which I think is terrific and critically important, is give before you get. You know, the more you can help others, the more others are willing to help you. And it's just a great way to give back to others in the process as well. We have one-on-one coaching available. You can sign up online, and one of our volunteers will reach out to you to set up a time for a phone call or a Zoom meeting, and you can talk about anything you'd like regarding your job search, whether you want them to review your resume, whether you want to help prepare for an interview, do some mock interview practice, get some networking ideas and help, or just to talk through your current situation. For a lot of people, they just need to process their whole set of circumstances with somebody that gets it, and maybe get some advice or coaching along the way. So encourage you to take advantage of that as often as you like. Sign up on the form on the website, and you can, as I say, one of our volunteers will follow back up with you. As you may already have experienced, this process can be an emotional roller coaster. And I think getting spiritual support and prayer support through that is invaluable. And I'm just grateful we have on our team people that love to pray for you. And so you can fill out the prayer request page on the on the website, and somebody will be praying for you on those things. But if you feel like you want to talk through your situation, not for necessarily specific practical job search help, but just to deal with the emotional roller coaster of this, or get some additional spiritual support and insight, we have also a team that puts together our soul care, where you can meet with somebody on a regular basis online. And so you can see the details on the website for that and sign up, and encourage you to take advantage of that too. I'm just so grateful for the people on our team that give their time and compassionate support for people in that process. The meat and potatoes of the most in-depth and ongoing help you can get is through our online classes. And we have a 8-week small group class that we have a new one starting every month. And there's going to be one starting up here in January. Our December class already started, but we cover every aspect of a successful job search. And so starting with attitude and getting in the right frame of mind and doing some assessments so you can better articulate what makes you unique and what you offer that perhaps others don't. We talk a lot about networking and targeting companies because that's so critical to this process. We talk about resume best practices and how to improve yours, and interviewing skills, and talk about different aspects of different kinds of interviews and how to navigate that. We talk about negotiating and selecting the right job, and there's so much more. And I think the content is exceptionally strong and really helpful to give you confidence that you know you're doing the right things for your job search. But I also think that weekly light accountability, encouragement, and moral support, and being able to share and help each other in a group that gets it, that's going through the same thing, and you're all in the same boat, I think is as valuable as the content we cover. I think getting support and human interaction during your job search is such a major part of being able to navigate it successfully. And throughout the 8 weeks, we include talking about what's God's perspective of your career and your job search and your life in general. And so I really think that's an encouraging part of it. As I mentioned, the new classes starting monthly. You can see the details on the website and register there online, and you'll get all the details to follow up when for the logistics for your specific class. Take advantage of this. This really is a way to get, as I say, the most in-depth and ongoing help. And even if you've been through the class before, but it covers the same information, but you got a new group of people that can be supportive and encouraging for you. I think that, and I often hear from people in the classes that was even more valuable than the content. Join our LinkedIn group. If you go to LinkedIn and put in MN Crossroads Career Network in the search box, you'll find us. And it's a great place to stay up to date with what's going on. We have recruiters in there that post positions. We have updates on events coming up, just good content and articles that people place. But the most valuable part of it is we have well over 2,000 people that have been alumni to Crossroads that are, most of the overwhelming majority of those are currently working at other companies and remain in the group just to be available for you, to reach out to for insight and help in navigating the companies that they work at now. So if you're looking for if you're targeting a specific company and looking for somebody to contact within that organization that is willing to be of help in some way, check out who's in the group and see if you can find somebody that is working there now. Like I say, with over 2,000 people in there, there's a high likelihood you're going to cover most companies in the area. And then this is a great way to give back after you land. Just stay in the group and allow others to reach out to you and be available for them to be able to provide information, perhaps some referrals, whatever you are comfortable doing. But it's a great way to help others as you've been helped. And so take advantage of our LinkedIn group. As I mentioned earlier, all of our webinars, including this one, get posted on our YouTube channel. And if you go to YouTube and type MN Crossroads Career Network in their search box, you'll find us there. And we'll have this video posted before the end of the day today, but you can review previous webinars and see topics that you may have missed or that would be of interest to you. And from the last couple of years, everything is in there, and we'll continue to be adding those as we go forward. So check it out. And there's a lot of tremendous topics and speakers in there that can be of great value. As an additional resource, Thrivent has been a great supporter for us for many years now, and we partner with them on a number of things. They have provided financial support so that we can do all the things that we do, as well as they have 3 regular monthly webinars that they provide for people in job transition to talk about financial considerations during job transition. Some ideas, unique ideas on budgeting that you may not have thought of, how to think about your retirement plans, what options you have. These are not sales presentations in any way. They're just strictly providing valuable support that can be helpful. So see the website for schedules and details and take advantage of those as well. I also want to acknowledge all the volunteers for Crossroads. We have over 40 people that give of their time and effort and expertise in one way or another. And we couldn't do all the things we do if it weren't for all the people involved. And so I'm just grateful and want to acknowledge that it takes a lot to put all this on. And we have a lot of people that give quite generously of their time. Nobody's getting paid in any way. And it's great that we're able to provide that for you. If you don't have a church home, when we do meet in person, there's 3 churches in the Twin Cities area that support Crossroads, and where we do have meetings. We're combining all our efforts online for now, but Woodbury Lutheran, North Heights Church in Arden Hills, and Grace Church in Eden Prairie all have tremendous opportunities for you to get plugged into a church community as well. And you can go to their websites to be able to see what they have available. They stream their services online as well as meet in person, and you can take advantage of that anytime and try them out. Really encourage you to get plugged in, as I mentioned earlier. This wraps up our 2022 series of webinars. We do 3 webinars a month, and our next webinar is going to be January 6th. And that one you really don't want to miss. It's Dale Kreinkamp, who wrote the devotional that we're sending out to you for free, How Long, O Lord, How Long? And he's going to talk about the emotional roller coaster and how to think about it and how to get spiritual support for it. Encouraging and uplifting webinar that I know would be a blessing for you, and give you some hope and encouragement through this process. So take advantage of that. That'll be our next webinar. Merry Christmas. Have a happy new year. Hope you land a job soon and you don't have to join us again, but glad that you were here today, and I hope it was worthwhile. Enjoy. Let me stop sharing screen here. Enjoy the rest of your day, and glad you joined us today. Take care.